I'm Amy Beach. I'm the PSHE lead and behaviour lead at St Paul's.
My name is Hayley Bolt, and I am the Christian Distinctiveness Lead here at St Paul's. And we've come just to talk a little bit about our experience with peacemakers. We come from a school that is about a 1.5 form entry, have about 250 children on roll, but quite a high percentage of pupil premium and EAL. So we have quite a range of diverse needs within our school. And we've been doing peacemakers for about 12 months, haven't
Yeah,
we?
12 months. We had training a little longer than that. I think it was about 18 months ago. But yeah, we've been running it for this academic year in school. We're also a Church of England school. So Lichfield Diocese look after us, don't they?
Yeah. I think when we consider why we chose to do Learning for Peace, when we think about the community in which we are placed within an area of Stoke-on-Trent which is quite deprived. We have a lot of community unrest through misconceptions and um, a lack of tolerance, perhaps, in some cases. And so our school is really well placed to teach the children what it means to be peacemakers within their community,
Mhm.
and to be really the agents of change so that Stoke-on-Trent becomes a more peaceful place, a place where the children are able to deal with conflict and resolve it in a healthy way.
I think a lot of our difficulties that we face don't necessarily stem from things that are happening within the school. It's predominantly outside of the school. So we wanted this to have a bigger impact on those children and the families and the community outside of school as well.
So we are both class teachers, which means that we both have experience of running circles. All of our teaching staff and support staff are involved in circles, so we all collapse down at 2:30 on a Friday to run circles as much as possible at the same time across the whole school, which would involve both the class teacher and support staff. Um, I think if I consider maybe one of my memorable moments within a circle, it would involve one of the girls who is in my class who has special educational needs. She will quite often disengage with a lot of activities, stay very quiet, sometimes physically kind of go on the outskirts of activities. And she has really got stuck in with peacemakers. She's always pulled up a beanbag to get herself stuck in with the circle. And it's been really nice to be able to hear her voice when she's wanted to share, whether that be in a circle or through running a game. And I think it's been lovely for me as a class teacher to see how safe she feels in that circle, that there's never been any pressure on her to have to share, that she has done that of her own choice. Have you got one,
Yeah,
Amy?
I think for me, it's the lead up to the circles and the time after the circles as well. So I teach year one, so the little, the 5 and 6. And on a Friday, is it circle time today? Are we doing a circle time session, learning for peace today? So they're so excited to take part in those circle time sessions. And then it's noticing some of the little things that happen afterwards. So on the playground, when they've had a falling out, they might refer back to the circle time session. So it's seeing the before and after for me as well as the circle times.
And have it all been lovely? Have there been any moments that have been trickier and how have you overcome those?
So we have spoken to staff and we've got feedback from them. And I think originally getting the children used to the circle, chairs in the circle, the organisational side of it has been one of the difficulties. One of the staff have expressed that their children have found that hard, but with support from the adult, because as Hayley has said, all adults then return to the class. That's been manageable, and the children are now more used to it and able to do it effectively.
I feel like there have been a couple of occasions where staff have not been quite sure where to go with a circle and have wanted kind of more specific guidance from myself and Amy, which we've been more than willing to talk it through. But I think for me, one of the wonderful things has been seeing how the staff have kind of taken on Learning for Peace themselves, and that they're able to run with the circles kind of as they see best fit. So when we think about the resources that are in the book, they're great as a guide, but sometimes the conversations have gone off in a totally different direction. And I think initially some of the staff were a little bit concerned that they should stay in the direction that was dictated in the book, but it's been good to really encourage them to kind of take it the way that perhaps their class needs it best.
And the children are doing that as well, particularly the older children. They're starting to lead those circles as well.
Yeah. I think my experience is that there have been a couple of times when children have voiced that they don't like peacemakers or that they find it boring. But with the check-ins that I've done with those children, I've always seen a progress over the year that we've been doing it to a point where they all just absolutely love it. And so even though initially they might not have perhaps felt very comfortable or enjoyed it as much, they're kind of getting into the routine has shown that kind of attitude can change, I suppose, in a way.
Helpful.
We have even the foundation stick. We've got a class of rising threes, so they're just turned 3. They don't sit at chairs, but they've got spots. They engage in circles, a very short circle time session adapted to them. But it is throughout the whole school. We do really value that time. For some teachers, they feel really comfortable with that. Like Hayley said, some teachers want to know exactly what to say and how to do it, and it's kind of that they need that. The activities and the games are really, really good. In terms of the mix-ups and things like that, the children really respond well to those. We've just received a new book as well, which has more activities for the younger children. At first, we did find it difficult, some of the activities to be adapted to meet the needs of the younger learners. And the new book does have more activities to suit them.
I think I especially like the resources because when you look in the book, it's really clear what resources are available online. And then when you go online, they are so clearly found within the Peacemakers website that you don't feel as a staff member that you're spending hours and hours preparing for a circle, that it might take kind of 20 minutes or so to look through and decide what it is that you think is best for that circle for that week. But the resources are all there. It's not something extra that perhaps I have to make. And some of the resources we would use more than once, perhaps. So we did one of the activities based around an anger jar. And because the resources had already been prepared, we then used that activity a few months later to see perhaps what had changed and what was different within the children. So the resources are just all there for you, and you're not having to go around and kind of make sure you've got 6 copies of this and 5 copies of that. It's all there, which is really good.
and they're very transferable. You can use them in other areas of the classroom. We've had some smaller interventions where staff have used some of the activities there with smaller groups, which are more focused.
I especially like the mix-up games as well, and because I teach an Upper Key Stage 2 class, it's really lovely now that when we set ourselves up for a circle, they will be the ones who almost choose the mix-up game. They will say, "Can we do the sun shines on you?" or "Can we do Circle Mayhem?" And those games are obviously making an impression on them because they remember them and they want to do those again. And I think for me, especially that the mix-up game when you work in Upper Key Stage 2 is incredibly helpful, because invariably when the children set up the circle, they will go and sit by whoever they want to, and there'll be clusters of friendship groups. And I think for me, those mix-up games are just a brilliant way of mixing the children up without telling the children I'm mixing them up. They just think it's a game. They don't know I'm doing it so that we're all sitting in different places. They just think it's a great fun game to play, which is fantastic.
And I think we don't do enough of those games outside of peacemakers and circle time sessions. Certainly, our children don't experience those kinds of games outside of school. So it's really nice to have that time with the children to just play those games. So I think for the little ones, it's just sitting and listening to them, having those conversations. On the playground, especially now, they're becoming more able to resolve those conflicts without adult support. If they do need the adult support, we're trying to encourage the staff to say, remember when we looked at this within our circle time session, how could you manage this situation yourselves without the need for us? And they are becoming more able to do that.
I think for me, one of the impacts I've seen in Upper Key Stage 2 is the growth in self-confidence. I think there are a lot of the children in our school who perhaps have quite low self-confidence, and I think especially children across the country now growing up in the world they are, self-confidence is becoming an issue at a younger and younger age. And through even some of the activities, but especially the magic carpet that all of us do every single week, to see the impact on the children for their self-esteem has been absolutely fantastic. And I hear a difference in the way the children talk about themselves during the week now. So I hear them going around saying, "It's okay if you don't do very well at that because we're all good at different things," or "One of the best things about you is how you make me laugh." And just to hear the way they talk about themselves and they talk about the other children, I think, as well as the tools to deal with conflict, I think we're doing a massive work for self-esteem within our community. And I think that's really, really needed at the minute.
Yeah. And our long-term goal is to have that impact within the community. So hopefully in years to come, these children will then use those tools outside of school. I think that was really, really useful. So we had a bit of a gap between the initial training, and then we did some training with staff, didn't we? And Jackie came in between, and for her to run the circle again reminded us of the ins and outs of how to run a circle. And then she observed us and we had that feedback, and we've had catch-ups in between. It's been really a really valuable time spent with us.
I think for me, the initial training was incredibly helpful because I think as school staff, so often you're kind of handed new resources and it's kind of off you go, use a new resource. But we all know that the best way to learn is by doing. And so actually doing a circle, and yes, it was longer than you would do a normal circle, and there was a lot crammed into it. I think I learned so much from from that day. And so then when we came back in September with the staff, we introduced it by doing a circle with the staff, and so that they could learn through that experience. And I think even simple things like when we did the magic carpet on the training session, Amy, you were in the middle, weren't you?
Yeah, I've been
And
randomly picked for the
the
magic
magic
carpet.
carpet.
Yeah.
And then when we did the training session with the school staff, I went in the middle. And I think it actually helped me to see almost the feelings of how a child would be sitting in the middle of that circle, feeling quite exposed and vulnerable, and the thoughts of, what will people say about me? Will there be enough people to say nice things about me? And I think that was really helpful as well, just in a way to see how might the children view these activities. What are perhaps some of the barriers that we might face when we introduce it to the children?
And I think because we trained staff with the circle, they were very open. They'd seen it for themselves and they really understood the value of the circle rather than Hayley just said, here's a book, go with it. I think informally talking to support staff, I think they really appreciate being involved in the circles. And it's never a case of that teaching staff need to lead the circle. We also have support staff leading circles, so they do feel wholly involved as well. So this is from our head teacher. So our head teacher's response and anecdote for how Peacemakers has gone within school. She said, children are always really pleased to show me their name on the display. So we have a Learning for Peace display. So children give permission for their magic carpet certificates to be shared so other children can see. And then that they can see the impact and the positive impact when talking to the children about their behaviour and the impact their actions have had on others. That without the adult initially, it was quite difficult to start to set up those circles. So this class has a large number of children with additional needs. So initially they found the structure of the sessions and the movement of the tables quite challenging. And they can become unregulated. But I think with that additional adult support, that can be minimised. The children find the games exciting. They can sometimes, though, however, find it challenging to remain calm. Most weeks the children have had disagreements and the guidance is needed. And I think that's really important to talk about actually, that there will be disagreements in the session. And it's then you as a leader and a facilitator to work through those disagreements. The children in the class respond really well. And she's talked about here the EHCP children having that additional adult as a support to support those. And then just really informal anecdotes really from staff to say that they're just really happy with the circle time sessions. We asked about training and if they needed any additional support. We haven't had anything back from them, have we?
No,
We've observed sessions and we've
Yeah.
given feedback and support, and it's generally just little things, remembering to use the crucible, remembering hands out, those things that can kind of slip that we've just reminded staff on.
I think a lot of the feedback we've had from staff is that it is a really special way to end the week. And obviously we have to be aware, using it on a Friday afternoon, that if issues are raised around a safeguarding nature within those circles, we have to obviously deal with those before the weekend comes. But everybody speaks of it being just such a calm way to end the week, and a really nice way that isn't just a let's think about how the week has gone, but a really, really focused activity. And I think for me, and I know from some of the conversations I've had with other staff, some of the loveliest feedback has been about how children that we thought perhaps wouldn't engage in the circles or didn't engage in the circles in the beginning are now fully engaging, sharing ideas. And I think for some children who are going in the middle of the circle for Magic Carpet, who might perhaps be on the outskirts of friendship groups, for them to see that people are willing to say something as an encouragement for them has been really affirming. I think I would just like to say that I think Peacemakers is very much a journey, and we have big visions of what we hope Peacemakers will, of perhaps the impact we think Peacemakers will have 5 years down the line about the way the children can resolve conflict, the way they speak to each other, the way they encourage each other through life. And that is a big journey. We won't necessarily see all of those massive changes right now, but if we put the foundation in now and the work in now through modelling those conversations and modelling, encouraging the children and encouraging them to share, then the impact will be seen further down the line. But it's very much a journey, and so we have to keep going on the journey to see that impact. I think if we were talking with other schools who are thinking of implementing Peacemakers, I would really encourage them to do it. I think when you look at your timetable as a teacher, it is very tight, and you kind of look and think, how am I going to fit it in? How am I going to fit something else in? But I think because this is such an important thing, there are ways to fit it in. And I think if you're willing to prioritise this, which we have done as a school, you will find the time for it. And even the logistics of, oh, well, my classroom is really small, there are ways to move the tables around so that you can fit the children in a circle. And myself and Amy had questions, not necessarily reservations, but questions when we first started it, of how will this work, or we're not sure how that will work. And I think the advice we would give people is just to give it a go and just to try it out and see how it works in your classroom. And if you need to adjust it or change it, then do that. We now some weeks do our PSHE work within a circle. So we will set the circle up, we will have the Peacemaker structure, but additional to the Peacemaker session, we will also do a PSHE time, because sometimes they dovetail really well and fit hand in hand. So I would really encourage it. I would say give it a go, but be willing to adapt it for your class.
Yeah, we are really strong advocates of Peacemakers. We've shared this with staff who visited schools from different schools, and I think if you are interested, contact Peacemakers, go and visit a school that runs Peacemakers circle time sessions, see if it's for you, and go from there, really.